On the count of three, I want you to say the word apple without saying it out loud. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Now, you can find a video of a rapper saying almost this exact same thing, but what I've just introduced to you is called the Apple voice. And that's what I like to call it. And what this is representing the internal dialogue that we all have. And today I want to talk about exactly why that internal dialogue or Apple voice is the only thing you should focus on for the next 90 days in order to dramatically change the results in your life. The first section in this is understanding how much influence this voice has over our day-to-day. If I'm a regular person and I decide to go through any asset of my life, I will be faced with first the Apple voice. Because when we're looking at the relationship between thoughts and action, thoughts are always first. And to double down on that, your thoughts you're the only one who can hear that voice. So again, no matter how much as your friend, family member, loved one, I would like to change that voice for you, I can't because it's yours. And no matter how much I hate you, no matter how much I may want to inflict suffering, I cannot enter that voice. Only you can do this. And I think maybe you are right now starting to realize that this voice really talks a lot. I mean, it just says the worst things ever and the best. In fact, a lot of times when I'm going through this with people, I like them to realize that arguably when you've had the most relationship problems, or even not just on a intimate level, but with people you knew at school or friends, when you have these rifts, when you have these tussles with people, a lot of the times that internal voice is what repeats the painful thing. It's not so much when the other person calls me out on my problems that I have the issue. It's when I am alone and I'm looking in the mirror and there's no one else around, that Apple voice starts to run wild. Starts to tell me things like, I'm not worth it. This isn't the right path. You've made mistakes. You're not doing the right thing. You name it. It can get even worse. You don't look the way I want you to. You start calling names, whatever. We all have this. We've all, on some level, dealt with it. But I think one of the important things to note is, on the flip side of this equation, everything good followed some of the crazier things that voice has said. I want to take you through a couple situations. Maybe you've been through them, maybe you haven't. But when I was younger, I don't know how many of you guys, we were forced to do those music classes, and every year they have the concerts, the Christmas concerts, and all the time, right, the music teacher would say, does anybody want to do a solo? And most people, when they're asked to do a solo, even at that age, freeze up. Now, me and like some of the other crazy kids who you may have grown up with, I always wanted the spotlight. So, out of natural inclination and want and curiosity, I raised my hand. Me, teacher, I'd like a solo. Which is one of the crazier things that the voice and Apple voice I had said. Yeah, let's go sing in front of the whole school, family, and loved ones. However, some of those performances are one of my earliest performances on stage. And to this day, speaking on stage and with a microphone to a crowd is one of my absolute favorite activities. And one of the most highly sought after skills around. So inadvertently, just trying to be a little kid and be crazy, my Apple voice had led me to one of the greatest talents in my life. And maybe the same is with you. Maybe your Apple voice told you to click on this video. And whatever reason, you've decided to stay through. Maybe you've tried other videos before, and I don't know if you're like me, I'm the worst ever. I have to watch things on 2x speed, or I just get frustrated and want to go to the next video. But every so often, a message hits me, and I'm able to focus. And it's almost like that flow state that people talk about. It all just settles down and quiets, and I'm able to stay in my purpose and understand what it is that I'm learning and take it in and apply it. And I find mostly when I have those periods of flow state and when I have those periods of excitement and have those periods of feeling clarity, it is usually after a season of really intentionally trying to program my Apple voice to say positive things. I find it very hard to remain focused, clear, and dominant when the voice inside your head is constantly fighting or going over past mistakes or going over past traumas and not allowing you to stay in the present. Or maybe even on the flip side, being anxious about what could come or what might happen. All of these will ruin, so to speak, the vibes. They will take down and take away from the energy levels that you have. And controlling the Apple voice is so critical because who else is going to do it, right? And if you don't let the Apple voice, it will ruin and uproot every single good thing you start. There is a reason why people with financial success still deal with depression, anxiety, suicide, all the above. There's a reason why people with somebody else's I made it story is not enough for them to escape the Apple voice, because the Apple voice doesn't care about how much money you make. It doesn't care about how many things you've succeeded in or haven't succeeded in. What your Apple voice cares about is what you feed it. And putting in positive things like this YouTube channel or books that are nonfiction self-help books or podcasts from successful people that you aspire to be like, when we are implanting and inserting positivity into the Apple voice, that is what it will repeat. Your voice will repeat whatever it is most used to hearing. And you're allowed to change that. So if you are someone who is constantly listening to super depressing music, watching movies or TV shows where the main plot is sadness or heartbreak or calamity, right? If you watch Grey's Anatomy, it's all of them, right? And if this is what you're always putting in, there's no chance for the Apple voice to say something positive. There's no chance. It's been conditioned. Maybe the family or your upbringing before has conditioned you to react to every single negative occurrence in the way that you do. You grew up hearing, when this happens, I respond like this. And so therefore your Apple voice tells you this is okay. This is how to act. And I want to encourage you and wrap this up to a point. Number one, you own the Apple voice. It is not a foreign invader. It is yours. And at any moment, you may choose to assert your dominance back over it. Number two, your greatest joy and greatest goal in life is on the other side of the fearful things the Apple voice may say. On the other side of uncomfortability, on the other side of uncertainty, is everything that you've wanted. And number three, if you don't stand guard at the mental factory, it will be overtaken by weeds. So simply put, if you don't start applying things to make sure your voice is saying more positive things, if you don't start taking action towards your goals, so therefore you feel pride each day when you go to sleep, if you don't start letting out these negative emotions, they will multiply, they will get louder, and that will cause you to take less action, which will then give you less results, which will then prove the voices to be more correct, and then you'll repeat the cycle furthering into existence. Listen, success isn't guaranteed. Figuring out isn't guaranteed. It's important that you do it. So I hope this video was helpful. Like always, subscribe. Hit me up on Instagram if you want more direct help, and be on the lookout for my free mindset reprogramming course coming soon.